Hot Springs, Arkansas is a beautiful place, and tourists from around the world come to see the sights and admire the relaxing beauty. There are many people who call Hot Springs in Garland County, Arkansas home, and there are many people in Hot Springs in Garland County that wish they had a home. With that in mind, the Garland County Habitat for Humanity was founded with one simple mission of putting God's love into action by bringing people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Since its founding in 1995, the Garland County Habitat for Humanity has built 167 homes for moderate to low-income families in Garland County, which has impacted the lives of thousands of individuals. And not just those receiving the homes, but the 50,000 volunteers who have contributed their time and energy over the last 30 years as well. The Garland County Habitat for Humanity was started by a group of community-minded Christian individuals who came together to give their neighbors a head start. There's a story that's told around these parts that changes a little bit every time it's told, but it goes a little something like this. A few guys decided they didn't want to play golf every day during their retirement and wanted to do something to benefit others. The real story of how the Garland County Habitat for Humanity got its start begins with one man who was hearing good things about a new housing initiative and decided to bring it to his community. The rest, as they say, is history.
John, would you like to tell them how the affiliate in Hot Springs got its start?
Yeah, there's a group of people from the village that went to the church where Tlastack was, and it was a Christian church, and they wanted to start a habitat group. And Helen heard about it, and I had just retired from Warehouser, and she said, "You're looking for something to do, why don't you go to the meeting?" So I went to the first meeting. I got drafted, and everybody else kind of backed out.
You don't want to ask John to do anything, because when he does, he's in with both feet and both hands. He's all in.
Well, I've been reading about looking for something to do when I retired, and I read about Jimmy Carter, what he was doing. And I was pretty impressed with what he did when he retired from being president. And he got Habitat really going. He wasn't the founder of it, but he was very instrumental in getting publicity. And I just thought that was kind of a neat deal, so I just went from there.
I got involved with Habitat. I think John and I were on a bank board together. And so that's how we first got to know each other. And then so he asked, would I like to come on the board of Habitat? I did not know much about it, but I came on. And I think that was in 99 that I came on. So about 3-4 years after it started. Could have been 98. But so that's how I got involved with it. And it wasn't very structured then. We didn't have an executive director at that point in time. And so it was.
And we didn't have any money.
We didn't have any money either. And so that was a big thing. And so the board meetings were like blue collar board meetings. I mean, it was who's going to go pick up the paint and who's going to go pick up the plywood and get the supplies to the job site. So it was a worker bee board. And so that's how it got started.
And we didn't have any money. And one of our members, Fred Randall, who was on a group called Marauders. Anyway, he said, there's a lot of poke salad growing in my backyard, he said.
I forgot about that.
We could sell that stuff. So we got plastic bags, and we all went out one day and picked poke salad and put them in plastic bags and sold them for $1 a bag. And nobody knew what to do with them.
We probably got a lot of people sick with that.
But that's the first time we raised any money for Habitat.
Then there were some people came along and gave like $1,000 here,
Yeah.
or Leadership Hot Springs gave some money. So some stuff was trickling in, but it was not an. We had a good mission. We had a desire, but we didn't have a lot of organization to go with that at that point.
And that's when I asked Jack if he'd be president. He said, well, I will, but he said, I'm still working. And he said, we need to get somebody to do the legwork. And then we hired John Goodman. And he was the first paid executive director. In fact, about the only one we had back then.
We were getting enough structure that we sat down and made a business plan, said we need an executive director. And so we got a lot of applications in. John Goodman was he was a chaplain in the Air Force, and he had retired. He was living in Benton at the time. He put in an application. He came over. He was the last person we interviewed, and but he went to the top right away. Very organized. He had a passion. It was a ministry to him, continuation of his chaplaincy, so to speak. And so he came, we said, well, it's good, but the problem is you live in Benton and we want somebody that's living in Garland County. And he desired to have that. He hadn't been in Benton very long, and he desired to have the job. And he called us up and said, I'm going to sell the house in Benton and move over there. So that's how we got him. And we said, well, your first job, because we didn't have any money.
Yeah, we didn't have any money.
We said, your first job is to go out and earn your salary. So that was the first thing he did, and he really got it organized.
Hello, my name is John Goodman. The year was 2000. Two paths were about to merge. Habitat for Humanity was on a path of growth and just starting to stand up. And I was on a path of retiring from the United States Air Force after 22 years and moving back to Arkansas. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette had an ad that popped out at me one day. Garland County looking for their first executive director for Habitat. So I tossed my head in the ring. I was interviewed by Dr. Porter and John Seelig and Dick Mattson and Debbie Scrivener. They put me to work immediately. Dr. Porter first told me that there's no money to pay you, John. You're going to have to raise your own salary. So I said, no problem. I like challenges. And I remember well John Seelig handing me a stack of 12 mortgage folders. And he said, here's your office, which happened to be a little cubbyhole on the east side of Broadway. No copier, no computer. He said, we're here to help you. And so Matt Caruso made his appearance. He was the first construction supervisor, and he said, Goodman, if you're going to work for this much, you can't wear a suit, so take that tie off.
I didn't have any experience building houses, but Matt Caruso came along.
Actually, there was a guy named Bob Spindler that
That's right.
nobody liked, but he knew what to do with the house, and he's kind of got us going. But then Ann Crusoe and Mac came up one day and had their bag on their shoulders, and they said, "Is this the Habitat?" I said, "Yeah." We were in there sheetrocking, and we were tearing up more sheetrock than we were putting up walls. And I said, "Do you know anything about this?" And they said, "Yeah, we think we can. So we'll take this room down here, and you guys finish up here." Well, we never did get ours finished, but they finished theirs pretty quick. And I said, "We got us a foreman now." He agreed to be the foreman.
So 1996, my wife Ann and I were tired of living in Florida. She lived there for a long time. I only lived there 10 years. That was enough. So we kind of toured around and we found Hot Springs, Arkansas. And we said, this is kind of okay. Let's move here. So we moved here and bought an old house up on Prospect Avenue, unpacking boxes and stuff. And after 2 weeks, I'm pretty tired of unpacking boxes. And Ann says, "Look, there's an ad in the paper that they're looking for volunteers for a new Habitat for Humanity chapter. Let's go volunteer." Okay. I'd been in the building business for 25 years, something like that. So, okay, let's go. So we go in. And first off, we meet Artist Ronnie, the Colonel. She was a retired Vietnam Colonel nurse, and she was still a Colonel. So she says, okay, you have to sign here. When do you? Okay, fine. We'll go in now. So we go in, and there's a cloud of dust. And I'm looking around and saying, what's going on here? Well, we're doing sheetrock. I'm like, okay, but you have it on the ground and you're cutting it with a circular saw. Okay, is there another room where no one is working? And the Colonel says, yeah, that room over there. Nobody's working on that one. Okay, we'll go over there. So we go in and we hang the sheetrock in that room. Takes us about an hour, and we come out and I say, is there another room that you haven't gotten done yet? And they're still over there on the side cutting sheetrock on the floor with a circular saw. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And Artist Ryan looks at me and says, you're done. Yeah, we got that room hung. You got another one. Yeah, there's one over there. So we go in there, and I'm down in the closet nailing something down like this, and there's a shadow comes over me. And I look up and I'm like, what? And this guy says, hello, I'm John Seelig. Who are you? Like, my name is Mario Caruso. People call me Mac. Why do you want to know? I felt like saying, I didn't say that. I was like, and he says, oh, okay. You've done this a little while. I said, yeah, I've done it about, 20, 25 years, something like that. He says, oh, okay. Why don't we have lunch one day? Lunch. Okay. Only been here 2 weeks. We'll go have lunch. So we have lunch. And Seelig says, we were just donated a house that we're going to cut in half. We're going to move to a lot. No one here really knows anything about remodeling. Actually, they didn't know anything about anything, but that's okay. So I said, okay, I'll take a look. So sure enough, cut the house in half, moved it over there, and I started guiding the volunteers on how to do it and what we were doing. Next thing I know, well, we have another house coming up. Would you mind doing that one too?
I started at Habitat worksite in 2013, the summer, June 1st on 2013. We're building on Palmetto Street on that house. It was just the beginning of it. The second to the last house in that area. A hot summer day, full crew was there. And it was a Saturday, which was unusual now for a full day to be a Saturday, but it was a hopping day that day. And my intention was to build one house. And I started, and I went that first Saturday, and the guys were wonderful. They didn't run me off that day, so I thought, well, I'll come back Tuesday. And I did. And again, they were kind and helpful. And so I came back every day, work day. And again, I said my intention was to work that one house. What I didn't know is that you can't just work one house from beginning to end. It's kind of a bait and switch. I showed up and we worked hard and we got things done. And all of a sudden they said, we're moving to the next site when you come back. I thought, well, okay. So we worked next door, started on that foundation up and built the stud walls and the ceilings, and then we moved back to the first house. Okay, we worked there a little bit, and then we got pulled off and went to the second house again. I thought, okay, this is turning out to be longer than I expected. Again, the guys were nice and generous and kind and didn't run me off. So I went back and forth. Then we got pulled off for a third house. And we weren't finished with the first one. I thought, okay, well, I'll do this. And then you get invested in each house. I think it's probably planned that way to keep the workers coming back. You can't just work one house.
Through some circumstances I won't bore you with, the Lord revealed to me that I could be a Christ follower and be an excavator at the same time. And so it was during that kind of search and renewal that I don't know if it was John Seelig or John Goodman, maybe Jack Porter, but they approached me to do some work for Habitat. But as part of this renewal process I'd gone through, like I say, I was dealing whether or not I needed to be in full-time ministry or maintain what I was doing professionally. And I was in Guatemala, and the Lord gave me a verse. I was preparing a devotional there, and it was the life verse that I've tried to live with ever since, and I'd like to share it with you. Most people are familiar with John 3:16, the classic gospel. And I think one reason I've been able to remember this, it's 1 John 3:16 and following. And it reads, "We know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. But whoever has the world's goods and beholds his brother in need and closes his heart against him, how does the love of God abide in him? Little children, let us not love with word or with tongue, but in deed and truth." So since I was trying to live by that verse, whenever I was approached to be a volunteer or participate or fund an organization, no matter, there's a lot of great humanitarian organizations, but one of the priorities for me was that it had to be a Christian-based organization. And so when I was approached, I did a little research. I'd heard about Habitat and Jimmy Carter and all that, but I looked back and looked at the roots of Habitat, how they were founded there in Georgia on Christian principles. And I said, well, this is going to be a good fit, maybe. So started, like I say, just doing a little work, hauling aggregates or something. And then in the early 2000s, through the generosity of some people in town, the Wheatleys, the Coxes, the Shaws, there were some tracts of land donated. And Habitat decided that we could build small subdivisions. So that fit me just right.
Back then, getting the word out, well, similar to what you would do today. I mean, you'd give programs, various civic organizations on what was going on. The paper, the Sentinel Record, gave us a lot of good publicity, and a lot of that, like Horizon Bank donating the property, and the Wheatley family donated property to us. That's how we got Wheatley Village. And
we got churches to put in their bulletins that we were going to need families for these Habitat houses, and if they were interested, they could come to the first meeting we had. So
then the next thing comes up is that we don't have any money. What are we going to do? So my wife had done designer showcase houses in Florida. She organized all those. She's a fantastic organizer. And no one really wanted to talk about that idea, but Seelig said, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And everybody kind of jumped on board. So the next thing, Ann goes and finds a house on Quapaw, beautiful old house, belonged to something Smith. And she organized the whole thing. She got all the designers and decorators in there. They each took a room, and they each decorated it the way they wanted to decorate it. And then we charged to go in. And so that was Habitat's first fundraiser. She did a couple more after that. Because in the beginning, at the beginning of the chapter, we really had a hard time getting people to donate money. After those things happened, where the face of Garland County Habitat was out there, all of a sudden people started showing up. People started showing up with money. People started showing up to work. And it was truly one of the best 4 years of my life.
I think one of the most historical things that we did was the starting of the Restore. That happened in 2001. That was the same year that we hired John Goodman. We hired him in the spring. Dick and Carol Madsen were heavily involved in Habitat, and they had investigated starting a Restore. And so they made the pitch to the board. We were a little skeptical at first with that. We didn't know what that was, but John Goodman helped coordinate that, and the Matsons were really passionate about it.
The restore started in Hot Springs when Carol and I traveled to Dallas and Fort Worth and visited the restores down there to get an idea of how they were run and things like that. We went to St. Louis and we visited restores there. And we went to Springfield, Missouri and revisited that restore.
We also took our family vacation. The kids are excited to go to Disney World, and we stopped at every restore between here and Florida and on the way back. So,
no, it wasn't much of a vacation for the kids, and I got the idea because there was a restore in Austin, Texas, that supposedly was grossing $1 million a year. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but they made lots of money. That's true. So after we collected all of our information, we went back to the board and we gave a report about restores. And my concern was Hot Springs is not as big as Dallas or St. Louis. Would a restore work in Hot Springs, Arkansas? And how much money would it take? Well, the board wasn't all that enthusiastic about it. And I can't remember his name, but one guy was really against it. And
it wasn't Jack.
No, it wasn't Jack. Jack supported the restore. But they said, if we'll give it a year and we'll see what happens. And then we started looking for a space. Just so happened that Steve Story had his dad's building that used to be a Ford dealership. And there was a flea market in there. And the flea market folded up and that space was empty. So we went to Steve and he said, well, okay. He didn't think we were going to make a go of it. So at first, he didn't even charge us rent. So then there was a group of us. We went into the building. We took all the chicken wire and 2x4s down, and people started coming in. What are you guys doing? Well, this is going to be a Habitat restore, like a thrift store. And the people said, well, you need to put up paper and have a big grand opening. And I said, no. I want people to come in here. I want to tell them what we're going to do. And I want to tell them we need donations. So it went from there. It took us several months to get it in shape. And then we just had a soft opening. We didn't have a grand opening.
We didn't have a truck at that time. Our Suburban, for the first 6 months, picked up everything. And
yes, that's true. We had, that building was on 2 levels. 19,000 square feet. And I thought, we'll never fill this store up. I was wrong. Within 3 or 4 months, we had it full. We got a big donation from Weyerhaeuser. Their Mountain Pine mill was going out of business. And we got a lot of lumber from them. And donations started trickling in. And I remember before that happened, John Seelig and I sat down and tried to make a budget or a business plan or something like that. And for some reason, $600, that figure crosses my mind. That was for telephones and whatever. And I worried about people saying, well, I gave money to Habitat to build houses, not to build a restore. But it really didn't take, if you start a business for $600, you're doing pretty good.
But that started producing the first income that we've had. And so from that meager beginning, same year, it's like, that was a leap year. 2001 was a leap year. Hire a executive director that we didn't have enough money to do a salary, who came along and really did some positive things when fundraising. And then the fall of that year, starting the restore, Millard Fuller, who founded Habitat, he came to the dedication of that store. We got a lot of publicity from that, had a big reception for him. And to take that beginning and look at where we are now with 3 restores that make a significant amount of money for Habitat to continue our mission of affordable housing for the underserved.
I mentioned that kid that was very sullen when we first started, and I would make him go with me to different places, and he just wouldn't talk. And you could tell he wasn't afraid. He wasn't sure what was happening. But as things went on and we got his house going, and he saw that he had a bedroom that's going to be his, and a backyard that he could have his friends come over, he changed completely about how he felt about the world, and that made a difference in my opinion with that kid.
After he was stabilized by getting a home in his own room, he never had his own room, and he went on to graduate from high school and went to college and got a college degree.
I was asked to join the family selection committee. And I've told Cindy many times, and anyone who will listen, it's the hardest job at Habitat, by far. I know Cindy in her office, they work hard, but on your heartstring, the hardest thing we do is to pick families.
I found out I work at St. Joseph. It was St. Joseph back then. And I was walking down on my lunch break, and I seen this sign that said, Habitat is building houses. And I'm like, oh, I want to try that because I'm tired of paying rent. So then they said, well, okay, Penn, you have to go to a class. And then I went to a class, and they said you have to have all this different stuff. And they came out and seen where I was living, and I had one daughter. She was in the room with me with 2, and I had 2 sons. And they was in their own room. And they said, well, honey, your daughter need her own room. And I went, well, that's why I want to sign up for the Habitat. And so when we was building a house, I said, I got to do how many hours? They said, yeah, you got to do some hours for this house. And I went, oh my goodness, how am I going to get these hours? So I went back to church and told my church members, and my church members would come up there and help me. They helped lay the sod. They helped me paint. And I really was truly blessed with my 98-year-old auntie to come help me paint my house. We painted the house, and I was so tired. And she said, well, I'm older than you. You better keep going.
The fact that you go from one house to now 163 houses that we built, the lives that you've changed with that, the fact that you can put people into those houses, you can give them a house and you can free up cash flow for those people because their rent is 3 times what a mortgage payment is going to be. When you can build those houses and give them a 20-year interest-free loan, and then those mortgage payments go to building other houses, and it starts catapulting itself. So it's just been a phenomenal growth experience, but the most satisfying thing is giving people not a handout, but a hand up.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've noticed in a lot of these, the name John Seelig comes up. And when John asks you to do something, it's hard to say no. And we have a saying in my house that, we don't want to know the person that tells John Seelig no, because he just lives by example. So
Seelig's biggest talent is getting you to do something you want to do and you didn't know you wanted to do it.
I just am proud of the progress that we've made coming from nowhere to building all these houses and take care of these families. That's the thing that makes me feel good about it.